maintenant?
Oui.
Excellent. Oui. Bonjour, Monsieur le ministre. C'est la première fois que vous êtes ici dans le comité de l'environnement récemment reconstitué avec notre part, mes collègues de notre part, qui sont ici pour bien adresser vos efforts et comment ils sont d'accord avec vos mots. Okay. First thing I want to talk about here is what you addressed in your opening comments when you talked about the amendments made in the Senate. Now, when you talk about the amendments made in the Senate, how they don't fulfill what's required in the bill, can you give us some examples of what you think we might need to change here quickly in order to make sure this bill works well?
Well, first, merci pour vos commentaires en français d'abord. Et obviously, it is the first time that I have the pleasure of meeting some of you. It's obviously not my first testimony at the Environment Committee. During my opening remarks, I made a specific reference to some Senate amendments that would propose to create requirements to determine the need for a new organism. That is one example of me and the department having a really difficult time to see how one would ever operationalize something like that. So, as I said earlier, I think that many amendments we agree with. We will want to change some, but that's an example.
We'll get that further. Thank you, Mr. Minister. I'm curious about one thing here. When Clause 9 expands your powers for information gathering power set out under Section 46.1 to include products that contain or may release into the environment a substance that is toxic or capable of becoming toxic. Activities may contribute to pollution, hydraulic fracturing, and tailings ponds. Minister, speaking frankly, you and your government, but you in particular, have made several efforts to move into provincial jurisdiction here. Is this another attempt to move
Rappel au
to
président,
regulate provincially?
Oui, excusez, sorry, we have a point of order, Mr. McLean.
Right
oui, désolé, c'est que les interprètes comprennent très mal.
Oui, hein, la connexion n'est pas bonne. Hein.
Alors, je ne sais pas si c'est une question d'auteur du micro.
Je pense pas. I think, Mr. McLean, your mic is in the proper place. There might be a connection problem. I don't know. Let's keep going and see what happens.
Okay. Minister, did you hear my question there?
I did.
Okay, so it's Clause 9, and this bill's attempt to move into regulating hydraulic fracturing and tailings ponds, which I don't think your department is involved with at this point in time. Is it another attempt to regulate into provincial jurisdiction like you've demonstrated in other manners?
I would disagree with your characterization of our actions. In fact, the Supreme Court, when it came to carbon pricing,
sorry, it's not a characterization; it's a question.
Well, there was a characterization, then a question. So I disagree with your characterization. As you know, environment is a shared jurisdiction, and no, it's not an attempt to try and impede on provincial jurisdictions. The federal government has a recognized jurisdiction when it comes to issues such as water quality, for example.
Okay, thank you. Do I have a little more time here, just because of the interruption there, Mr. Chair?
Oh, I did stop it when we were having. Anyway, okay. Go ahead. Just keep going, and
yeah, I know that some of the other some of my colleagues talked about the definitions here on what we're talking about: environmental equity, environmental justice. But we also talk about harm versus benefit here when we talk about intergenerational equity. Is this balance going to be there as far as what contributes to benefit going forward and contributes to harm? I mean, I know it is two sides of the same ledger. And are we going to provide these definitions for judges ahead of time, or are we going to leave it open for somebody
briefly,
else?
Please, Minister, maybe 10, 15 seconds. Whatever you can do in 10, 15 seconds. Yeah.
That's a really good question. And as a legislator, the issue of balance is a really important one. Just earlier this week, I approved a mining project for palladium, which will have significant local impacts. but will generate benefits down the road because it will help us to electrify many of our industries. So, very good question.
We'll have to go to Ms.